Alright, Budget Magic, Thing in the Ice, Tutelage, and we got some things in the ice, and that's about it. But that's alright, we'll try it. Hopefully we draw some card draw to flip these things in the ice. Magmatic Insights, Tormenting Voice, things like that. Planes, and Thraben Inspector. So this looks like the humans deck. Well, let's crack this, get an island. Island into Thing in the Ice. What's our opponent have? Griff's Boon. Enchanted creature has +1/+0 when flying. Sure. And a Dragon Hunter. Well, we are going to bounce all your stuff eventually, opponent. So they get to get in for 2. Ooh, Engulf the Shores is sweet. Well, let's go Highland Lake, leave up Clash of Wills X1. Next turn, we can Engulf the Shores, get rid of all our opponent's stuff without bouncing our thing in the ice. Knight of the White Orchid. Do we care about countering that? Probably not at the moment. We'll let it go. Opponent gets a land. Another planes. Goes to attacks. Gets in with their flyer. Another land, and Hanweir Militia Captain. Yeah, I guess we might want to just clash that. Because that's going to flip into something that's too big for us to bounce with Engulf the Shores. And I kind of want to wait till the end of our opponent's turn next turn, hopefully, to bounce everything. Ooh, Fevered Visions is good. Alright, island. Pass the turn. So ideally, we would block, take the hit, at the end of our opponent's turn, Engulf the Shores to bounce everything. Always watching. Does that change anything? Not really? I don't think. We still get to bounce everything. Opponent's going to go on the attack. I think now, though, to save damage, we're just going to Engulf the Shores right now. Get a counter off thing in the ice. Bounce all our opponent's stuff. They can replay a 1-drop here. And they replay their Thraben Inspector. Get another clue. Ooh, Hydrolash. Well, let's just go Fevered Visions, Highland Lake, pass the turn, get to draw a card, and then hopefully we're set up to flip our thing in the ice the following turn. Well, Highland Lake doesn't actually help with that. Our opponent's set up to replay their hand. Knight of the White Orchid. If they can't kill our thing in the ice, though, the flipping should still be pretty good. Assuming we can make it happen. Alright, they have Declaration Stone to get rid of our thing in the ice. That slows us down, but isn't just deadly. So I get to get in for 2. We do have another thing in the ice, which helps. They get in for 2. They draw a card at their end of turn. We get Wandering Fumarole. So let's play our other thing in the ice. Play Wandering Fumarole, pass the turn. Draw a card. Ooh, Fiery Impulse is interesting as well. Gives us an instant speedway, potentially, to flip our thing in the ice. We're going to need another bounce spell, though. Thalia's Lieutenant is going to pump up all the humans. Well, I guess we got to let that go for now, unfortunately. And another Always Watching? Jeez. Well, good for our opponent. So let's block there, and then we're going to Hydrolash. Draws us a card, gets a counter off thing in the ice, kind of mutes the attack. We need another bounce spell, though, or to chain together a card draw. Come on, not land. Ugh. That's a land. Down to 9. We really didn't want land there. And another land. Sack the clue. Well, now we're probably dead. We drew many, many lands in a row when we needed to be drawing spells. There's the Tormenting Voice. If that was one card earlier, we probably would have been able to bounce everything and potentially win this game, but wasn't meant to be, unfortunately. Well, I guess we Fiery Impulse Thalia's Lieutenant, get a counter off our thing on the ice. The thing is, though, the thing is that we're going to have to chump with Thing in the Ice just to stay alive, which means we can't really win. I guess we can draw another bounce spell, but even then it's probably too late. Opponent's going to sack their clue token, plays another land, and yeah, we're just dead. Very disappointing to draw those 3 lands in a row. Alright, Fiery Impulse is in, Rose in, Archives out, Fevered Visions out, or minimized. Yeah, Fevered Visions out, 2 Send to Sleeps in, and maybe go down one Magmatic Insight for another Send to Sleep, and play it like that. Alright, game 2 against humans. Alright, we got a Tutelage, which is good. Tutelage can mill out this deck pretty quickly, because they don't play many lands, and all their cards are white. So that's our biggest benefit in this matchup, is Tutelage can mill for a ton. Plains for our opponent, and no 1-drop. Island, go. Well, this works. Now we can potentially Clash of Wills, a 2-drop. Clash of Wills, the 2-drop. Untap Sphinx's Tutelage. And another Tutelage. Alright, there's the Tutelage. Now we have a Tormenting Voice and a Fiery Impulse to deal with our opponent's next plays. Knight of the White Orchid's going to get our opponent a land. Let's see how quickly we can mill this opponent out. Hopefully we mill in big chunks. Town Gossip Monger, alright. Highland Lake, we mill 4. Alright, so let's go Island, Sphinx's Tutelage, pass the turn, and leave up the ability to Fiery Impulse something. There's a Kytheon, sure. Alright, let's Fiery Impulse to kill the Knight, to counter that Griff's Boon coming back from the graveyard. So our opponent can get in for 1. They decide against it. I think we're in good shape. And another Fiery Impulse. Excellent. Tutelage mills 2, mills 6 or 8. I would like to Tormenting Voice here, but we might need to kill a creature. Let's Tormenting Voice and see what we hit. Tormenting Voice, pitching the Highland Lake. Mills, mills, mills. We didn't hit another land, unfortunately. Opponent's down to 32 cards. Down to 30 cards. 28 cards, 26 cards, so no big chunks of milling there. But we're still pretty close, and they only have 2 creatures. Yep, they're going to flip their Gossip Monger, sure. Opponent has 3-bit Inspector, gets a clue token. Griff's Boon. Oh, that was a Griff's Boon from their hand, okay. I thought they got it back from their graveyard for 1 mana. I was going to say, that's not right. Alright, we take 4, maybe 5. Opponent passes, we get a land, we get to Tutelage, 2 cards, 4 cards, down to 19. Ooh, do we go for the win here? Probably safest not to. We would get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We should win with 8 triggers. Let's go Tormenting Voice, pitching Fiery Impulse. This should be enough triggers to win, unless we literally hit like 2 cards every time. Oh, we got it. 11, 7, 3, there's the big chunks, and 0, and now we just pass the turn. Sweet. Well, that's how I imagine this working against the human deck. Milling those massive chunks. 3 triggers took them from 20 to 0. This is a very aggressive humans build, too. I would almost rather play against the more mid-rangey builds. This is like all 1 and 2 drops. Alright, game 3 against mono white humans. I guess we can keep this. Got an Impulse, a Tormenting Voice. Unfortunately, lots of tapped red sources, which is a little bit of a bummer. There's the 1 drop. Expedition Envoy. Highland Lake, go. Matchup seems a lot better when we're on the play and can Clash of Wills our opponent's first creature. On the draw, it's a little more sketchy. 3-bin Inspector, 3-bin Inspector. That's a lot of 1-drops. I think we're better against the more mid-rangey human builds, honestly. Magmatic Insight. Alright, let's just play Island and pass. Leave up the ability to either Fiery Impulse, the Expedition Envoy, or Clash of Wills, like a Thalia's Lieutenant or something. Opponent attacks. Puts us down to 14. Yeah. So we're going to clash this Handweir Militia Captain. Can't let that resolve. Get another clash. Well, let's play Island here. Now we can potentially clash and Fiery Impulse, depending on what our opponent plays. Also, if they have a land. Griff Boone on 3-bin Inspector. Okay. Well, now I think we Fiery Impulse the 3-bin Inspector. Take 3. Still a little scary. Well, let's Magmatic Insight, pitching a Highland Lake. There's an Engulf the Shores and a Thing in the Ice. Well, I think we play Thing in the Ice, play Highland Lake, pass the turn. If they Declaration in Stone, they Declaration in Stone. The good news is we'll be able to Engulf the Shores to bounce their stuff. Thalia's Lieutenant. Okay, not the end of the world. We still get to block. So we take 2. Another island. Well, let's just play the island and pass the turn and see what our opponent does. I think the way we win this game is trying to bounce everything at the end of our opponent's turn, preferably, and keeping our Thing in the Ice alive. Knight of the White Orchid. We might have to counter that. That does get him a... Well, the land might not matter. Let's let it go. They get a land, trigger Thalia's Lieutenant. We still get to bounce everything at the end of turn. And we keep our Thing in the Ice chugging forward. 3-bin Inspector, sure. Now we can just bounce everything at combat because they can't recast it. So that's what we were hoping for. Opponent goes attacking. We just Engulf the Shores, bounce everything toughness 3 or less, which is all of our opponent's creatures. Get a counter off our Thing in the Ice. Ooh, alright, let's Magmatic Insight, discarding a land. Get a counter off Thing in the Ice. Ooh, man. Do we want a Tormenting Voice? Let's just play the island and pass. And our plan's going to be to flip the Thing in the Ice next turn. We can clash something this turn. Knight of the White Orchid to get a land. We might want that to keep our thing in the ice alive. Alright, Knight of the White Orchid resolves. They get a land. Now they can play Thalia's Lieutenant. They go with Expedition Envoy and Dragon Hunter. Well, that's fine as well. Alright, let's see what we draw. Send to Sleep. Send to Sleep is actually pretty sweet. So I think I think we gotta discard it though. So we go Tormenting Voice, discard, Send to Sleep. Get a counter off thing in the ice. 2 more things in the ice. Well, let's just pass. See what our opponent does. Thalia's Lieutenant, sure. Silk Wrap, well, that we need to Clash of Wills. So let's Clash X2. Gonna flip our thing in the ice, bounce all of our opponent's creatures, get our Awoken Horror. Now see if we can close out this game. Opponent's got a discard, actually. Discards what? Valving Wilds isn't exciting. Well, let's get in for 7. Play a thing in the ice. Play a thing in the ice. I think we hold a Valving Wilds in case we draw a Magmatic Insight. Leave up our Fiery Impulse. There's a Knight of the White Orchid, gets our opponent a land. We are about 1 bounce spell away from winning this game. Another land. Expedition Envoy. Dragon Hunter. And Thalia's Lieutenant. Come on, 1 more big bounce spell. 1 more Engulf the Shore. Roast. Roast isn't bad. Let's roast Knight of the White Orchid. Get some counters off our thing in the ice. Attack with our Awoken Horror. Opponent's going to chump. Alright. And pass the turn. Leave up our Fiery Impulse. If we can chain together 2 more card draw spells, that would also be sweet. To flip these things in the ice, then we win that way pretty easily. Thraben Inspector gets our opponent a clue. Kytheon. Opponent's down to 2 cards. And a Thalia's Lieutenant to pump up the dorks. Come on, bounce spell. Opponent goes attacking. I guess we got a Fiery Impulse one of these. I guess the Expedition Envoy doesn't really matter. So a card draw spell is the best thing we can draw here, because then we flip our things in the ice and win. Engulf the Shores would also be pretty solid, although not just game winning. Come on, card draw. Not a land. Please, not a land. Tutelage? This was a bad time to draw Tutelage. Well, I guess we play Tutelage, pass the turn. Now we gotta play defense and try to stay alive. Oh, we needed a card draw spell. We have so many! Oh, that's so disappointing. Opponent gets to draw a card. Very disappointing. Oh, they draw Griff's Boon. Oh my god. Wow. Well, I guess we were ways away. There's Engulf the Shores. Hydrolash, Send to Sleep. Yeah, we just fizzled. I mean, we didn't draw. We went a long way through our deck, and we drew 2 Magmatic Insights, 1 Tormenting Voice, 0 Catalogs. So all of our good card draw was down at the bottom. But that's what we needed, was just like Magmatic Insight into Tormenting Voice, flip everything, win the game.